With all the news and information you need to start the day, this is Breakfast with Stephen Semziempo, 1206.
2CC.
Now, we've been talking quite a bit over the last few weeks about the danger that frontline medical staff and first responders face each and every day. And we'll talk about this later on this morning, another incident at the Dua mental health facility. But have you thought about other industries, particularly the real estate industry? And out-of-control workloads, emotional burnout, abuse and violence in the Australian real estate industry have come to light. And we've got to ask ourselves, why is this behaviour continuing to go unchecked? To talk to us more about this and whether or not in general it's safe being in public-facing roles in 2022 is our resident expert in leading under pressure, Anton Guinea. Anton, good to have you back this morning.
Stephen, great to be back, mate, and what a great intro and a great summary. Thanks for having me. And yeah, look, we've gone from COVID-19. We're like in Anger 22 at the moment, right, Stephen?
Yeah, and it's... it's interesting that you're focusing on real estate here because I wouldn't have imagined that was a particularly... I've worked in real estate, granted a very, very long time ago, and it wasn't often we were being abused or threatened or subjected to violence, but clearly things have changed.
I know, mate, I know. And I've got a son in real estate, would you believe, which is why it's near and dear to my heart. And he's not a property manager, and I think it's specifically property managers, Stephen. And so there's a little bit more to it, because this is in my opinion, because I think we've got rental crises and rental markets are a bit out of control. We've got, people that can't buy, and we've got all sorts of stuff going on around, pricing. And then all of a sudden people go and they take it out on their property managers. And poor old property managers, they only get the bad news. They only find out when something's broken or fix this or my roof's leaking. And so I think people, I think we need to take a step back. I think we need to say, these forward-facing roles like property managers, they're just doing their best. And it's not okay for the public to lash out. I come back to your question, why real estate agents? I think there's a little bit behind that. But, get this, Stephen, there was another case in the last week or two where there was an altercation in a hairdressing salon in WA because one person asked the person beside them to put on a mask because they're still masking over there, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's broad. I think real estate is just one aspect of it because property managers always get bad news. They're a bit like the service staff in a car yard, Steve. The service staff have got to deliver bad news sometimes, and there's a skill to delivering bad news, as you know.
And we saw it here recently. We had a whole bunch of protests in Canberra, and 16-year-old kids behind the counter at McDonald's were being abused because they were telling people to put on a mask. And I guess when you talk about property managers, they generally tend to be the younger employees in a real estate business. What do we need to do? You've talked about de-escalation training. You would hope that this kind of thing is being employed at, as I talked about, mental health facilities and amongst first responders. But I don't even know if it's happening there.
Oh, look, let's hypothesise that it is. Let's you and I cross our fingers and toes that first responders particularly are getting that sort of training, right? I can tell you, though, it doesn't happen for people like real estate agents or property managers or service staffing. So one of our biggest clients is a Toyota dealership in Gladstone, and we do that work with them. And I know that they're probably the only dealer in town, for example, that would do that sort of training with their staff. So I think it's probably safe to say that it's really only emergency response workers that have got the de-escalation skills. And again, like you said, I love what the fact that you picked up. We put our young workers in the most vulnerable roles without any training, and all of a sudden we go, well, why is this happening and why don't they have the skills? Would you believe I'm literally right now, as we speak, standing in a room and I'm about to deliver some safety training to a group of apprentices, right, which is really cool. So, we have to train our young people. We have to help them. So what we know, Stephen, now is that the most influential person for a young person is their first leader. There's a fun fact for you. One of the most influential people in their lives who can really shape their working career and their personality and their character. And so imagine if your first leader said to you, here's all the skills you need to keep in control, keep a situation in control, de-escalate it, and to be able to talk lower and slower, to where to look at a human when they're out of control, and to just keep your own emotions in check, Steve. We don't do emotional intelligence at school. We don't do emotional intelligence in the workplace. And so all of a sudden, and it's not only our young people, we've got probably 30 or 40 or 50-year-old people that haven't got those emotional skills that we probably should have as we grow and as we are in forward-facing roles, because we know there's a lot of anger out there at the moment, right?
Absolutely. I think it's an important thing to talk about. And, I know, and as we say, we're focusing on real estate, but I mean, that could be extended to retail or hospitality or, almost any frontline staff position at the moment. So when you talk about de-escalation training, though, what sort of format does it take? How do you develop those skills in somebody?
Oh, great call. So they can be taught. The challenge is, Stephen, that you've really got to put someone in the position where they're a little bit confronted so that they get the experience of having the emotional control process or going through the emotional control process. So we can do role-playing, which is really, really important. And a lot of businesses are now going back to role-playing. They're asking us to actually do role-playing, whereas we went away from it for a little while. But de-escalation training, it's a given. It's an absolute essential that we've got to do role-playing so that we put the pressure on people and they can have that experience. We just teach them to talk lower and slower. So, when we get escalated, you think about an argument you might have had with someone in the past. We sort of go up to meet them at their loudness or their volume, but we don't only meet them, then we go higher, Steve. And then there's this nice, we keep going higher and higher and higher until we can't get any further. The same thing happens to de-escalate. So you imagine if I talked a little bit lower and slower than the person that was angry, all of a sudden we change the emotional state just slightly, and all of a sudden those people that we're talking to change their emotional state. Yeah. And they start breathing differently.
It seems obvious when you say it out loud, and there's a certain irony that, funnily enough, politicians are probably better at it than most. Anton, always good to talk to you, mate. We'll catch up again soon.
Legend, Stephen. Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me. See you, mate.
All the best. Anton Guinea from the Guinea Group. He's a expert in leading under pressure. 6:17.